In the health and wellness field today, we think that we need to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on supplements and testing and appointments, and the list goes on. But what if we tapped into natural technologies like sun gazing, moon gazing, grounding? Join me this week as I sit down with Isabella Young and we talk about how some of these free and simple technologies that our ancestors have known since the beginning of time can have an incredibly profound impact on our overall health and well-being. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an East Asian medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women to live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your health, offering holistic solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show. Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. I am joined today by author Isabella Young. Welcome to the show, Isabella.
Thank you, Adrienne. I'm so excited for our conversation today. When I last spoke with you, I really enjoyed our connection, and I'm sure that we can share some really important information for people to feel better. There's so much suffering going on in the world, so much confusion, and there are a lot of natural remedies and practices and tools that we can use that are very simple and effective. And yeah, I'm looking forward to unpacking some of that information today.
Well, with that introduction, everybody, you can see exactly why Bella was a very aligned person for this show, because she, like I, am very much in the vein of nature gives us the things that we need in order to be balanced, aligned, healthy, and whole. So she published a book called New Human, New Earth. It is a beautiful book. I wish I had an opportunity to read it cover to cover before we had a chance to sit down and have this conversation. But there is so much beauty in the pages of this book. If you could just share with the listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what brought you to writing this incredible book.
I wasn't actually born Isabella Young. I have changed my name a couple of times. I started my life off in a small country town in Australia and went through a fairly traumatic divorce, family divorce, which set me on a trajectory really of trying to recover from that experience. I left Australia in 2000. I had met a man who, well, spoiler alert, I thought was my guru, but turned out he's a cult leader, and I ended up in a cult. And that was just living hell. Once I escaped from there, I moved to Hawaii, where I've been living ever since, healing, learning, and writing about my experiences and what I learned from them. I'm a work in progress. Still a long way to go.
And say, aren't we all?
Yes.
It's absolutely the journey in this lifetime for sure. So her book has a big focus on recalibrating with nature. So, when we were talking in our call, just feeling out whether this was going to be a good fit, we were talking about basic healing practices. And a lot of times things that are connected with nature are treated as like too simple to matter. And the truth is our disconnect from nature is really where a lot of our disease and disharmony comes from. And that's one of the things that I really felt like we connected when we were talking, because we both very much are focused on the fact that nature brings us back home to self on all of the different levels. And when we're able to tap into our connection with nature, come back home to ourself, that's where the beauty and the healing really happens.
Yeah, it's not possible to be an optimally healthy, balanced, powerful, joyful human being without a connection to nature, without a direct connection to nature. Bare feet on earth, skin to earth, lying on the earth. That's fundamental. It's really health and healing start from the ground up, literally. That whole idea of grounding it should be as innate to us as breathing, because it is just as essential, even though, we obviously can't survive without air for long. But the truth is we really can't thrive without the direct connection to earth. And I haven't worn shoes for about 8 years, except when I, have to travel or whatever. And I know that I'm empowered by the energy of the earth through my feet. I'm rebalanced electromagnetically and physiologically. And that connection is, it's my stability, where I stay centered. And I really don't know how people survive without that connection, direct connection to earth. I know a lot of people think that, grounding's some woo concept, but it's not. Our ancestors knew about the importance of connecting to earth. That's why they didn't wear shoes that cut them off from the earth's energy like rubber-soled shoes do. So it's really important to take time every day to go outside and put your bare feet on the grass or walk on the beach, and then besides just feet on the earth, if there's snow on the ground or you live in the city, there's an opportunity to touch trees and bushes and rocks and crystals. They'll also give us the grounding energy. You can wear crystals that are grounding and bring plants inside. And there's grounding equipment like sheets and computer mats and all sorts of things that you can use to ground yourself. But the most effective way is to get outside every day, bare feet on the earth, or just lie on the earth. And the other part of that too is we receive optimally when we're relaxed. So to lie on the earth and do nothing except receive and give thanks. It's an essential daily practice.
How simple is that?
Yeah, and how simple is that? It's free and effective. And like you said, some people think these things are too simple to matter, but they're actually essential and simple.
Absolutely. Well, and as you were saying, laying on the ground and just giving thanks and being an empty vessel, I could literally feel some of our listeners going, you mean not do anything? Like lay there with no phone in my hand? What? We need that.
We do need that. We need to practice the art of relaxation. We do need to be fully relaxed. And that isn't lying on the couch scrolling through the cell phone. That is not being relaxed. In fact, that's interacting with screens and electronic technologies is one of the most disempowering things we can do, because it's not human. It's inhuman. And anything that's inhuman or unnatural sickens us, disempowers us, and disconnects us from, I'll call it God, source, higher power, great spirit, universe, all that is. I've come to understand, and there's more and more information coming through. That's the purpose of these screens. While we think that they're advancing our lives, and I'm sure they are in a lot of ways, if we don't realize what they're actually doing, and that's disconnecting us from our higher power, our intuition, and each other, really. There's a lot lost when we're communicating through a screen. There's a lot of nuances that we don't pick up and stuff like that. And so kids who are brought up through screens really don't know how to be human. They're not learning the skills that they need to from being away from a screen and interacting with the natural world and other human beings.
Oh my goodness. I see this in my kids all the time. My teenagers were primarily homeschooled, and my youngest one gets so mad all the time because she goes, I went to go hang out with fill in the blank friend's name. And she's like, the whole time they were on their phone. She's like, they didn't look at me at all. She's like, so what's the point of hanging out if you're not going to interact with me? But because they were outside of the traditional schooling system, They have had, my two younger girls went to a daycare pre-K situation that was all outside. And they had muddy buddies and boots, and they like no weather was bad weather unless there was lightning, right? Because it's a safety thing. But like honestly, they went outside, and I live in northern climates, right? But as no bad weather, only bad gear, right? So they went
Yeah.
outside all the time. My girls love to be outside. And they know how to make eye contact and interact with other people. But if you look at kids their age, they sit around in a circle and they call it hanging out. And they have screens in front of their faces and they don't know how to make eye contact. They don't know how to socialize, nothing.
It's terrifying. There are, what, 2 generations now of humans whose primary relationship is with a screen or some sort of technological device. And then before that, we've got a shit ton of people who were raised with the television, which is, up until the cell phone, the most powerful mind control device that's been introduced. I'm just starting to get that, the understanding that these technologies that are given to us, they're not like the most advanced technologies that are going to help us evolve. They're not that at all. And they could be. We could have technologies that are helping us to evolve, but what we're being given at the moment are technologies that actually keep us enslaved. They keep us very limited in our perceptions and limit our ability to be a healthy, happy human being. Just to keep people sick and suffering.
Absolutely. I saw this really. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, unless like you did, bring your children up relating first to nature, other people don't have any other idea or an understanding that there is a life outside of screens. They don't understand the glory of the sunrise or the grace of the passing clouds or the kiss of the wind. These are they're such gifts to us as human beings, and they're being forgotten and overlooked. And that's what does the future hold when we've got humans who are not really being human anymore?
It's a really scary thought.
It is a scary thought. So in addition to your own grounding, it's important to take the children outside as often as possible. Let them play, let them have adventures and take risks and, learn through the natural environment. It's really important. And thank you for doing that. Thank you for, raising children who are connected to nature, because then they're connected to their hearts and connected to higher power and connected to other people and other life forms, animals, plants, and all that. It's the best gift you can be giving them.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's definitely the unconventional way in today's world. And
right, how funny.
It's wild.
It is. The other practice that I wanted to talk about is sun gazing. So sun gazing is a practice that I do most days, and that involves gazing very gently, through gently closed lashes, not completely, obviously, at the sun when it's rising, just, as it comes above the horizon, and only do that for as long as you can comfortably. And initially that might only be a couple of seconds, and then you can build on that. And the same practices with grounding. Be relaxed, be open, and give thanks for what you're receiving, because what you're receiving is the highest form of information available to us while we're embodied, and that's light from the sun, which is sun's a portal for other suns, great central suns. So we're receiving this life optimizing information, and it goes in through the eyes and into the brain, the pineal gland and the pituitary gland, and it works magic. I don't know how it works, but it does. It's got light codes and other DNA optimizing information that we can also receive that light through our skulls. It's porous, so it's good to go out in the sun without a hat on sometimes. Receive sun through your skin. It's essential for us to receive sunlight. This whole fear of the sun that's being pushed on us through, we have to use sunscreens to protect us, and this idea that we got to protect ourselves from the sun, it's really making people very sick and unnecessarily fearful. And the sunlight does not cause cancer, but obviously you can get burnt, you can get sun damage. Just be sensible about it. But the sun gazing it can change your life, really. It may not happen overnight, but if you keep doing the practice over time, I know I can feel a difference. I know I can feel my consciousness is expanded and I'm able to receive a lot more information, collate a lot more information. And I mean, this is 800 and something pages long, I know that's because one of the practices I do is sun gazing. You can also do it at the sunset as well. And you can receive light from moon gazing, star gazing, looking at the water the light that shines off the water, that's sparkly, when the water sparkles, that's reflected light. So that's good to receive. The light that shines through crystal prisms, the rainbow light, all of those light, the natural sources of light are going to be beneficial. So I'd recommend just the daily practice, if you can, just, receive the sunlight for a couple of seconds and then, give thanks and go about your day and build on that practice. And that's something I've been doing for many years now. And while at the start I thought, it's some like hippie bullshit practice, it's not. Ancients have used it. We've all heard about sun worship and all that, connecting to Ra, the sun god. There's a reason for that. So it's one of the most powerful practices that we can do. And it's free. And anyone can do it, wherever you can see the sunrise.
I love how all of these suggestions and recommendations that have these really powerful impacts on our body are free. Have you guys noticed that? They're free. They're free. And our ancestors, and for thousands of years, cultures around the world that had no connection with one another because they were geographically disparate, all understood these basic tenets that we need light, we need the connection with the earth in order to be able to live our healthiest and best lives. And as we saw the beginning of the industrial era and we started moving in the direction of controlling our environments and optimizing production and all of these things, we started getting away from and disconnecting from the natural rhythms and cycles of nature and the world around us. So as we disconnected from those cycles in the world around us, we got sicker. So, if you look at numbers, I had a guest on who is a registered pharmacist, and he is a total wealth of wisdom. And he was talking about how chronic illness, there was only 7% of the population in the 1940s that suffered from some sort of a chronic illness, so heart disease, things of that nature. Today, it's over 60%. But it's because we've become further and further away from our connection with nature and our connection with natural rhythms and cycles, whether it's our biological cycles as bleeding bodies, or whether it's the cycles outside the window in nature. Like, the more we've become disconnected from these things, the sicker we've become. So there's actual data, you guys. Actual data showing that these tenets that Bella is talking about, they are free and they are simple, and they are some of the most powerful ways that we can come home to self and bring our bodies into right relationship in order to be the healthiest expression of who we are.
Beautiful. Well said. Yeah.
So what inspired you to write this beautiful book?
Well, I was sitting under a coconut palm. It sounds very trite, but I started thinking about what was helping me feel better, because I just escaped. My son was murdered by the cult leader, and I was just clawing onto life, really. I didn't want to be alive anymore, but I had children. So once I was in Hawaii, I started learning about ways that I could calm my nervous system and rebalance and understand what happened. So under this coconut palm, I started thinking about grounding and what a essential practice it is. And so I thought, I'll just go and, maybe I'll be writing a book about grounding and it just went off from there. Just the amount of information that came in about not all, but many of the natural medicines that we have available to us in nature, in our bodies, our body technologies that we have so many that are untapped, and then also in our divine nature too, like spiritual technologies. What inspired me was really my connection to the earth. And that's, I've been taught really by the sun, by the ocean, by the trees, the plants, the birds or whatever. Nature's inspired me to write and share this information. And just want to say it's not new information. A lot of it's ancient information. I mean, there is some new information because there are new type of technologies that we can access, like I said, the grounding technologies. But this is basically what I offer is a remembrance of how to be human, because that's, like we've been saying, it's so quickly being forgotten. And even just listening to wisdom being spoken is a medicine. Here we are now having this conversation and listening, and there are other people listening, and that's just is beneficial. How we speak benefits us and benefits other people. Our smile, that can change someone's day. We have all these, how we move our bodies in ways that increase our health and resilience and balance and things like that. So that's what I've really been writing about and learning a lot in that, because there's a lot I didn't know as well. Like there's this process we have within us. Some people call it raising the chrism, and it's or the sacred secretion. It's this alchemical process that happens every month. So when the moon is in the same sign as the sun was when we were born, so so the moon's in the same as our sun sign, there's two different fluids. And when I say fluids, it's just what would be the substance that's between matter and physical and non-physical matter. So it's this etheric substances released from the pineal and pituitary glands. They travel down the body and they're alchemized all the way down to the sacrum, sent back up the spine, past the 33 vertebrae, up into where they rest up in the skull for 3 days in the cave of darkness. And then after that, if that process hadn't been compromised, which is so easy to do, from drinking or riotous living or just even eating too much or the wrong things or whatever. But if that process goes through to completion, then the fluid that's released, the sacred secretion, can renew our bodies. That's how people who live for thousands of years, or the yogis can do that by this process. Who knew? I didn't know about that. Most people don't know that they actually have access to immortality within their own bodies. That information's hidden. What I've come to understand is a lot of these things that go on, like the screen technologies and all the bullshit that happens on the world stage, all this distraction, war, this, that, the other, it's all to distract us from being fully human and fully divine. So instead of looking at the sun or out in nature, whatever, we're looking at screens and getting all this. We're not designed to receive all this information. It's overload for the human being, and that creates distress. That creates eventually, mental and physical illnesses. Yeah, it's important to be as fully human as we can now, because we really are being disempowered and distracted from what we're here to do. And what we're here to do is receive light, evolve personally and then collectively, which is happening anyway, even though it looks like shit. It looks, like everything's falling apart and there's chaos, which there is. And that's because the intensity of light from the sun is increasing, and that's dissolving and disintegrating all those systems that function in the darkness that are based on fear and control. They are disintegrating, even though it doesn't look like that at the moment, but that's what's happening. And the more we can tap into that by just taking time to go and be human, to play with children or walk in the woods or cook food or grow food or walk animals and tend animals, that's such a powerful contribution to this evolutionary process that we're in.
And now a word from our Reproductive Rebel sponsor, Embody Space. Your cycle holds wisdom, and the Embody Space cycle tracking app helps you unlock it. Track your cycle in the only fully encrypted app designed to protect your most sacred data. Get daily guidance tailored to every phase, from bleeding to blooming, with rituals, herbs, lifestyle tips, dietary support, and more, all tailored for your body's natural rhythms, because your body's story is yours alone. Embody Space, your private portal to cycle wisdom. Download now and reclaim your rhythm. And now, back to the show. Well, and nothing changes unless we get uncomfortable, right? So like, I feel like I've talked to a lot of clients lately who feel anxious, discouraged, frustrated, really general worry around where I'm going to say the world in general is headed. And even if they are not totally connected with their higher self yet, that embodied knowing is awakening as these shifts are taking place. And they are stressful and they can weigh very heavy on the heart. And, you know, all of these practices that you're talking about, like these are our ways of leading by example, embodying these practices, teaching others in our little microcosm, sharing your beautiful book in our little microcosm. I had a conversation with a girlfriend of mine. On and off, I've had these moments of, I just want to help the whole world. And like, it just feels really big, you know? But I just, you know, it's my deepest hope for this show. My deepest hope for my work is that, you know, it's going to help teach and empower people to be able to take control of their health and live their most vibrant lives. And I was laying on the floor in my office having a little bit of a woe is me moment, because I was like, I just felt so big because there are so many people that suffer needlessly and all of these things. And my girlfriend said something very profound to me. And she said, but you're affecting every person that has come through the door and worked with you. And they are going to teach their microcosm. And that wisdom is going to organically percolate through because you have one-on-one touched several hundred people, and it's more at this point because this was a few years ago, several hundred people's lives. And every single one of those people learned things from you because you have taught them, you walk your talk. They've learned from this. And now they're going to take it and teach their kids and their family members, or, you know, they'll be sitting around talking with relatives and somebody will go, oh, I'm having this problem with my period. And they'll chime in with, oh, did you know? Yeah. She's like, your wisdom, what you're bringing to the table helps to percolate and permeate, and you are having so much more of a ripple effect than you even realize. So just keep doing what you're doing, Adrienne. You will change the world that way. And it really hit home for me how true that is. And I sat up from laying down in my little woe is me on the floor, because I was like all spread eagle on the floor of my office being like, ah. And I had hit this wall of frustration because I just really wanted my message to get like further and help more people, you know? And she said this and I'm like, you know, she's really right. And that's essentially what we're talking about here too. You know, starting to work with light. I find for me that I feel the most regenerated by the moon and the stars. Mm-hmm. I could just stand and look at the stars for hours. My husband just kind of chuckles because he's like, oh, the stars are out. We know where Adrienne is. But I just feel really connected that way. I love the sunshine, but I feel more enlivened by moonlight and starlight. And I feel very connected to it. Maybe it's the phase of my life that I'm in, but just these very simple practices that we start to bring into our day-to-day. It's not a huge investment of time or money or anything else, but it pays dividends. And when we start to embody these practices as part of our daily ritual, and I can say I've been working with light for a while also, and I've been talking with my perimenopausal clients about how darn important different spectrums of light are when you're going through your perimenopausal transition. Red light spectrum at the beginning of the day sets off a cascade of hormonal responses and cortisol and, the decrease in production of melatonin and all of those kinds of things. It's an important start to the day. The blue light spectrum at the midday, where the sun is the highest, helps to set the tone for what comes later in the day. Going for a walk after dinner not only helps your digestion, but you're also getting that red light spectrum at the end of the day. That tells your body to start preparing melatonin so that you can go to sleep. Because one of the most common issues that perimenopausal women deal with is sleep disruption. But just this very basic practice of a few minutes at different key points during the day makes a huge difference in terms of how the body shows up and performs.
Yes. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that connection of the light to except moonlight, of course, but the sunlight, like you're saying, the different spectrum affecting the menstrual cycle. But you've obviously got a wealth of information in the area. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's really cool. So
yeah, it is cool.
If somebody were to pick up your book, we were talking about how to use your book because it is a wealth of information. How would you approach looking at all of the wisdom in the book that you wrote?
There is a lot of information in there. I talk about what I understand as being the predicament of humanity, the enslavement of humanity. So there's a lot of explanation about how the systems that we had imposed on us and that many people have come to trust, from the education system, the religions, the legal system, financial system, science and all that I explain how they're basically systems of control and limitation, and then how we can bit by bit extract ourselves from that or create other. We're sovereign beings working towards everyone's highest good, not just a few. And then there's a large section on the different types of medicines, like I said, the body technologies, nature, and then divine technologies. And I was saying to you before, I think that's because it is a large book that it could be used as if you wanted to, in a way like an oracle type of thing, like open it up and just see, what information might be there that could be of benefit. And then there's a section at the end on artificial intelligence and my critique of that. You'll probably agree with me, Adrian, because you and I think alike. But what I've come to understand is all this AI and ChatGPT and all that. There's so many people are using this without understanding that it's actually dehumanizing us. In fact, I just read an article the other day from MIT about how it's actually the more people use artificial intelligence, the quicker they have experienced cognitive decline.
Yes, I saw that too.
Right? Well, oh my gosh, I missed that one. That had published my book before that came out, because what I was really talking about is my own just observations of how I see these artificial technologies impacting us as individuals and as a collective. And while they might be in the moment handy, you can get a lot done or create whatever, in the end, what we're doing is handing over our innate creativity. And that's our essence. That's who we are. And that's not something just to be given away or overridden by some technologies. So anyway, I've got a big a chapter on that. And it's an invitation for people to just think differently about how we're interacting with these technologies that we're being given.
Yes, absolutely. I just saw, and I was going to mention that earlier in the episode. I'm so glad you brought it up.
I was horrified. Like I knew that, and I've jokingly said a few times that, oh yeah, the doctors of the future are going to be the Chat GPT doctors. Like, aren't we excited about that? And I said it sarcastically because I tell my son all the time, like I actually blocked chat on his phone because phones were a whole fight in my house anyway. But I'm like, I'm going to still try to censor you so that maybe you get out alive with a little bit of your humanity intact. And he was so mad at me. Everybody uses it, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yes, but they can't think for themselves. And I have been very resistant to adopting it. I use it here or there, sometimes simply because I'm an external processor and I'll be like, give me some suggestions of a title for. And then I take that and I do something with it, right? Like I get creative because sometimes I'm having a creative block. But that's the only way that I could see using it in a way that felt at all aligned to me, because I don't have a team anymore to bounce ideas off of. It's like me and one other person in this practice. And I think I bother her sometimes because I'm like, what do you think about this or this? She's like, I'm at a T-ball game right now. I'll get back to you. So, it can be helpful, but what people are doing is they're using it on autopilot, the same way that they use social media and doom scroll, the same way that they use, and the thing is I'll have clients be like, I'm having such a hard time getting pregnant, for example. And we'll talk about their technology habits and, how much do you get out in nature and all of these kinds of things. And because, notifications on your phone trigger stress responses.
Yeah.
Like, and we don't think about it because it's such a part of our culture. And I plug my phone in and I walk the heck away from it whenever I possibly can. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, sorry, it took me a little bit to get back to you. The only thing I worry about sometimes is my parents are going to call. Somebody's going to have an illness and I won't get it for a little bit. But, I saw an article about people bringing back the landline for that reason. And I was like, yes, I could get behind that. Because, the phone would ring, you would answer it, and it was straightforward. Right.
Yeah.
And my dad worked for a telecommunications companies. His whole career pretty much was in telecommunications. And I remember back in the very early 90s, he brought this VHS tape home that showed us video calling in the future. And I remember getting really excited about that. Maybe that's my Aquarius nature, but I got really excited about that because I'm like, I'm going to be able to talk to somebody and see them on the other end. That is so cool. As we sit here having this recorded face-to-face Zoom call with her in Hawaii and me in Maine, right? So I loved the idea of that, but looking back at it, had no idea how far afield we were going to go from a video phone call, and it was going to morph into, some of the beauties like this Zoom call, being able to have this beautiful conversation and share it with other people, and some of the downsides, right? So being able to critically think around how technology works, how we engage with it, and not forgetting that we are nature and we need to get back to her.
Yeah.
And our body makes physical and spiritual technologies available to us to recalibrate. There's so many natural medicines that are available, and it's not just plants, right? Like I'm an herbalist. I work in the plant world, but the sound of water is nourishing. It is frequency, because there's this beautiful book called The Blue Mind, and it talks about our connection with water and how ingrained it is in the fabric of who we are as humans to be near water. I know that I spend 5 months of my year next to a river in a camper because
Lines.
instead of being inside,
Yeah.
I go out on my deck. I sit by the river. And the first year that we did this, I was like, oh, well, this will be a fun change of pace to get out of the house. The kids will have people to play with, blah, 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 blah. I got back home after doing that for one summer, and I was anxious because I was inside my house and I had no idea how much my body, my heart, my soul craved that outdoor time. And I literally had to carve out time during my day to go outside because I had such a beautiful recalibration from being outside most of the summer. And I told my husband, I was like, I don't care what we have to do in order to be able to continue doing this. Like, this is an investment in all of our health.
Right.
We need this. And I look forward to it. I literally count down the days every year because, being in a northern climate, we can't do it year round. It gets cold and snowy here, but it's so incredibly important. And I cherish this time every single year. We wish we could actually camp longer until it got colder because my husband and I both just love this opportunity. We cook outside, we eat outside, we take our coffee on a little platform by the river that we put in on our campsite. Like it's medicine.
Yeah, it is medicine. That's what I've written in the book is hundreds and hundreds of medicines.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful gift that you're giving to yourselves, your family, and your children, because now they've got an experience of how it feels to be outdoors. And so they can feel the difference when they're inside. So many kids don't have that, like I said before, don't have that feeling of other.
Absolutely.
And yeah, just back to the water thing. We could talk for the whole time on water. Have you heard of Veda Austin? She's from New Zealand and she studies water. She's sort of moved on in a way from Dr. Emoto's work. And what she does is she's done experiments like she'll have a Petri dish of water and then have it next to her bed, and then she sleeps, dreams and whatever, and then she freezes the water. And she's found that what she can see, like she dreamt about a ship, she can see the ship in the water. She calls the water God consciousness, basically. It's pure consciousness, and it will imprint, it'll store memories, and it will optimize us if we can program it for that. And we can program it in very simple ways, like put your glass of water out in the sun before you drink it. And so it's going to have more biophotonic light in it. You can put a crystal in it, a non-soluble crystal, obviously, just quartz or whatever, and that's going to amplify its healing potentials. You can pray on it. You could put your glass of water just on your, this is what I do. If I've got a bottle of water, I'll put it on my heart. So then it's entrained to my heart. You can bless it, pray over it, and then drink it. And that optimizes the water that we're drinking, because you don't want to be drinking tap water. Like if you can avoid it, most municipal water has fluoride in it, which is really it's poison, and it calcifies the pineal gland. So we can't have a connection with our intuition or with, our higher selves. And that's the reason. That's why. The whole teeth thing is absolute bullshit. There's no studies that prove that fluoride has any benefit to teeth. So yeah, optimizing water is another really important practice. It's simple and easy. None of those things that I mentioned cost any money. Optimally, we'd want to be drinking spring water or pure spring or well, but that's not always possible. But there are springs around that you can find and drive to and fill up containers of water so that you are drinking your purest water. Get a water filter on your taps or shower, whatever. That's all those practices that really, like you say, they're investments. If you got a water filter on your house or just on one tap, that's an investment in your health. And then the other practices that are important are, of course, eating high vibrational foods, which are optimally food that we've grown ourselves, because the food that we grow ourselves, we can grow our own personalized medicine. And then just even simple things like a pot of a few herbs. You can sprout sprouts. That's the thing that I do. That's the easiest thing to do. That, and then you're getting that life force energy that's, in there, in that sprouting seed, germinating seeds. We get that into our bodies, and that's optimizing our health too. So these are the very simple practices. So eat food that's as natural as possible, just picked, as local as possible, because then you also get the energy from the local area. So you're continuing to empower yourself. And then, of course, you want it to be organic or biodynamic, which is the principle of growing food that Rudolf Steiner gave to us. Yeah, just keep it as, it's all, sound like a broken record, but as natural as possible with the food and water, light, earth. And then it's really important to think about like you were saying before, about what's our technology use, what other information you're taking in, how natural is that, how pure is that, how true is that, how necessary is that, or is it just creating distress and anxiety and fear? Because as you know, that just sets up the body for disease and illness.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
So if you were to leave our listeners with a final thought and how they could find you, what would that be?
Spend as much time as possible in nature, out in nature every day, being relaxed, being still, being silent, and receive. And know that you're receiving whatever it is that you need for optimization of your life, really, because that's what nature's constantly giving like that. So just be open to receive and be grateful for that, because there's a lot of magic that's being worked that we don't know and don't understand. So I have a website called feelingbetternaturally.love and a Substack, Feeling Better Naturally. And I have a YouTube channel called Feeling Better Naturally. My older videos were more like talking and teaching. Now I offer nature videos, because even seeing images of nature can be beneficial. And like you said, hearing the sounds of nature are beneficial. So in terms of, I said, get outside and be in nature, you can also bring nature indoors. Bring more plants indoors. Play nature sounds, like you said, running water. You can also play whale sounds, dolphin sounds, the sounds of birds, insects, all sorts of nature sounds will help the body to de-stress and just return to balance. And also the colors that we wear, or, with crystals and things like that, all these things can help us to be able to move through all that's thrown at us, all that life throws at us, much more gracefully. So we don't get thrown around so much, be the tree. See yourself with roots of light going down into the earth and branches of light up into the cosmos, and be we're the conduit. We're grounded. We're here. We're in tune with nature, and we are evolving. We are bringing forth the new earth through every thought, word, deed, and action. And that can be just as simple as being a kind, good, helpful steward of the land.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for being on the show, for sharing your wisdom. We're going to put the link for your beautiful book in the show notes so that people can get a hold of this incredible resource.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your support. And I just wanted to say, on, like you were saying about you wanted to reach more people, we'll know that every time you open your mouth, you are contributing to the collective. So you really are talking to everyone. Like my book, it may never be a New York Times bestseller, but the information that I've put in writing there is now it's in the Akashic record, it's in the collective. So you are making a really powerful contribution to making the world a better place, especially with what you're doing for your children, because they are the future. And like we started off by saying, what does the future hold if there are no children who are connected to the natural world and to themselves, so that they are operating from their intuition, which will set them up for being in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing throughout their lives. So thank you for that. It's can't even express it in words what a gift that you are giving to us all, really, and to the future of humanity. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Until next time, everybody.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at Moon Essence Me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.